Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us today on China Daily Speak Talk. It's our great pleasure.
Well, thank you very much for visiting our embassy.
First of all, welcome to China. And what is your impression of this country? And most importantly, how are you going to plan for your career here in China?
Well, thank you very much for a warm welcome. I have been here for a little bit over the month. So it's very hard, to tell, very precise and very concrete impressions. First, of course, actually, when you land in Beijing, actually, you see that it's a huge, when you look at the map of China, it's a huge country, and then at the same time, I think will be a chance, to visit at least, part of the provinces, so that it's interesting to see the country, which is so different, from different perspectives, which covers a huge territory on a world's map, at the same time speaks one language, so that it's a one country with even different systems, as we know. So that it's first impression. So, but I was very honored, to land in Beijing and within a week's time to present credentials to your president, so that I'm a fully pledged ambassador, so that I can start and also start my career here and also continue what my colleagues have been doing here before, and so hopefully that will improve relationship for both countries.
See, this year, as we all know, that the 16+1 China and Central Eastern Europe summit will take place in your country, in Latvia, in Riga, actually. So this time, what's your expectation for this major summit, and how do you expect that the China and Latvia could both benefit from this summit?
Probably we have to go a little bit back into the history. It's not only a summit which will take place, of course, which will be a very important event for us and also for 16 other Central and Eastern European countries, and I hope also for China. So we are celebrating 25 years of our diplomatic relationships. So back in 1991, in September, the agreement was signed between both countries. So that's what we will be celebrating together this year. Involves not, in this case, not only us, but also our neighbors, Estonia and Lithuania. So 16+1, I think it will be a possibility for us to show Chinese Prime Minister and also his delegation how beautiful we are and actually how much we can achieve together on a bilateral basis and also as a group. So that's a great honor for us to host this summit in late October or November. So that we are still working on practicalities, but there has been the summit as a place, and also the timing has been confirmed.
I see. A lot of European countries are having more and more exchanges with the Chinese leaders. For example, in the Boao Forum just concluded 2 weeks ago, the Lithuanian Premier was in Hainan with our Premier Li Keqiang. So during your post here, what high-end exchange can we expect from China and the Latvia side?
Well, that's always a crown, for the embassy and also for ambassador and his colleagues. That you have exchange of high-level visits. We haven't been doing so badly, also previously. There has been a state visit by our former President Vairevīķa Freiberg. Our President Valds Zatlers has been twice in China as well, so that and there has been many exchanges, between both Chinese officials and also Latvian officials on the ministerial level, and also just people-to-people exchanges. We know that is very important. Probably even sometimes more important than those officials. So that I think that within the coming 4 or 5 years, I hope that there will be, exchange also high-level visits. Either on the level of presidents or prime ministers. And prime minister, of course, in this case, when he will be visiting Latvia for a 16+1 summit, of course, will be invited by our prime minister for bilateral talks as well.
I see. Aside from political cooperations, what's your plan in terms of promoting China and Latvia relations in terms of cultural collaboration?
I would say this part of the people-to-people exchange is probably ongoing for many years already, and maybe from that perspective that's the easiest. I would say that more interesting and more time-consuming is probably creation of economical cooperation. I mean, so because that always involves two sides for a business purpose. I mean, you have to agree and you have to find a way how to agree, and I mean both ways, either to Latvia from China or from Latvia to China, so that it's a two-way process. The cultural exchange, I mean, that has worked very well. I mean, we have had, let's say, Chinese opera, Peking opera last year in Latvia. We have had many dancers and singers here in Beijing and other cities. Last year, during the presidency of Latvia within the European Union Council, we had ballet performing in Beijing, so that it's an ongoing process, and there is not only, let's say, ministries of culture involved. There is also different other institutions and associations involved, so who are wishing to fulfill this exchange.
I see. Probably my last question here before we leave this interview. We say that China currently is going through a very interesting period of time through our history, because there are a couple of reforms going on. And one of them is called, one of the initiatives is actually called the Silk Road Economic Belt Initiative. So what do you think that the Latvian side can play a role here in this major initiative? Or how do you think that we can both work following this major political agenda?
Well, it's interesting that you are saying that there are a couple of reforms going on in China. I guess that taking into account China's history for a couple of thousand years, I think it's not the only and probably not the first and the last initiative. I mean, the Chinese government and leadership has proposed. I think that that plays very well also into our hands, so that it shows that China is interested into outside world. Not only in the closest neighborhood, but also looking outside. It's part of on the map, so that I think it's a fantastic opportunity also for other countries. I mean, so that and 16+1 in some ways, it's also included in the same initiative, so that we are looking forward to work with Chinese people and Chinese government.
I see. Before we wrap this up, what is are there any major events gonna happen between China and Latvia in the future, maybe in the next 5 months, that you would love to have a little preview,
Well, I think that the closest event, which maybe is not a huge importance if you look from the size-wise, but which probably will be more important for the cooperation between both countries, will be opening of visa centers. We hope in April here in China, in Shanghai and a couple of other big cities, and then by the end of the year we hope that within 15 cities in China you will be able to apply for Latvian visa, or for Schengen visa, the Latvian is a part of, so that it will just encourage, people-to-people exchange and contact. So that is a small event, but we consider this it's an important big step for us.
Where the office will be like in Beijing, in Hailong or?
The office in Sanlitun area, the same as all other our
where they issue the Danish,
the Italian, Greek, and then Finland. So that it's the same place.
Good. So it will be a lot easier for us to apply for Schengen visa, and
well, Beijing, of course, is not a problem, but I mean outside Beijing, so that it's more important that people can just go directly and apply for a visa there.
That's great. That's great. Well, Ambassador, thank you so much.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today.